What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and here comes the chess revolution. Basically, I found something really interesting which blew me away. There is a way for black to win in 8 moves against the most popular opening sequence of white. And I know it sounds like a clickbait, so let me prove it. Here's a database of chess games, and at the bottom right corner, you can see the stats. For example, the move pawn e4 was played over 2 billion times. That's crazy. But anyway, that's not the point. Let's follow along with the most popular moves. Pawn e4, pawn e5, by far the most popular move is knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 is the most popular move on amateur level. We follow with knight to f6. The top line of white is knight g5, the fried liver attack. Black usually responds with pawn to d5, and everyone recaptures with a pawn. And here is an extremely fun thing. You see, when white plays this variation, you expect white to be aware of it, right? To know some theory behind this line, but it turns out that it is not the case. All these millions, many millions of players who are playing these basically just rely on you playing this dubious move knight takes d5, which is wrong because it enables white for this fried liver attack, knight takes, king takes, queen f3, check to your king, attack of the knight, and you can see that the score is mostly in the white's favor. So that's what they're hoping for, and basically that is it, right? If you don't fall for the trap, they don't know what to do next. So let me get a couple moves back, and here's that instead of knight takes d5, let me play a proper move knight to a5, which is the move that I suggest you to play. Okay, now we attack the bishop. You see that again, pretty much everybody goes bishop b5. You play pawn to c6, they trade here on c6, and the top move of white is bishop to a4. And now, let me turn on the engine and I'll show you the stats. You can see that after a little bit of calculation, it starts showing that black is clearly way ahead. It's minus 2.2, and if I use a stronger stockfish, it shows that black has an even greater advantage. So what's the point here? Again, it's an extremely fun thing that white chose to play this opening line without really knowing what they're doing and getting right into a losing position straight out of the opening within a couple of moves. So it's something really amazing, and definitely you can take advantage of this and win lots and lots of games with black. Why is this position so bad for black? Well, the thing is, now you start chasing away this knight on g5, because now it does not attack anymore, and you gain tempos by attacking this knight. So the knight usually goes here to f3, then you play pawn e4, attacking this knight once again. And notice that your queen is controlling these squares, so the knight hasn't many options to go to. It feels very sad for white to move back to g1, and indeed, you'll simply be way ahead in development. So in most cases, they do go knight to e5, and that's a mistake that costs them a piece, because after queen to d4, that's a double attack of the queen and bishop, thus winning a free piece on the next move. Now, this mistake is actually extremely common for white. When I searched for this in ChessBase, it showed me the top game played by Alexandra Bottas with white pieces, and you might know her from YouTube. She's a decent player, but anyway, you see that even fairly strong players get into this opening trap. What's the problem? Well, you attack 2 pieces, right? And they just can't save both of them. For example, if they take over here, of course you don't want to take this knight, you just grab the bishop. That's it. And you want a piece. Now, if instead they capture here on c6 with their bishop, then it's check to your king, so you need to do something about that. But after this trade on c6, this knight is actually getting trapped there on this square. It has no way out, so the next move you're going to capture it. And besides that, you're also way ahead in development. Look at white's pieces. They're completely stuck here on the first rank. So for example, after you grab the knight, the next thing you can do is playing something like bishop g4, attacking the queen, and it's also extremely unpleasant. So overall, not only you're up a piece, but you're also saving a strong attack. There is also another very similar variation here, which is worth knowing. Some of the folks realized that knight to e5 is bad, so they played queen to e2 first. But that really doesn't change anything. They want to pin your pawn so that it can't move, but you can very easily unpin the pawn by playing bishop e6. Now once your king is covered, this renews the threat to their knight, and they still go knight to e5, falling into the very same trap, queen to d4. In this case, the variation is slightly longer, so let me share it with you. Here after white takes, bishop takes, knight takes, so far so good, all the same stuff, queen to c5, and in the previous line you just won this knight on c6. And right now, there is a way for white to hold on to this knight a little longer by playing queen to a6. And this does defend the knight temporarily, but those 2 pieces are still very vulnerable to your attack, and you can and should attack them with the move bishop c8. You want to drive this queen away and then pick up the knight. White can try to queen a4, but after that, here comes bishop d7. Anyway, attacking these 2 pieces on the next move, you're going to grab the knight with all the advantages we discussed about previously, and you are clearly winning here. So congratulations, the chess game is solved. When you play black, basically you win this way. Of course, it's a little bit trickier than that, but anyway, this clearly maximizes your chances of winning. By the way, in this variation, just let me share with you real quick that we're going to talk about the main move, bishop b5 check. That's what white is going to play by far the most often. But just to tell you that white can't get out of this variation that easily anyway, if let's say your opponent just plays bishop b3, saying, okay, I don't want to get into those complications, let me play a simple defensive move. Actually, you won't let white out that easily anyway. You still play all the same stuff, pawn h6, tracing away this knight. After knight f3, you still go pawn e4, gaining these multiple temples, attacking this knight. And after knight d4, now you'd wish to capture this pawn, but it's defended by the bishop. So you first grab the bishop, white recaptures. They hope you to just pick up this pawn and be happy, but instead, here comes our nasty move bishop g4. And it's a common attacking pattern in many of these variations, so it's really worth knowing it. The thing is, there is no way for white to block these attacks somehow, other than playing pawn f3, which is really weird, that completely ruins their pawn structure, opens up their king, and now you have this long-term initiative. Moreover, you can start chasing white right away with the move queen e7 check. And here, the following variations are just a lot of fun, really. If white covers, you don't trade here because the queen is pinned. You just take bishop takes f3. White cannot recapture because it's pinned. So you win a pawn, you attack the rook, you attack this pawn, you attack everything, life's good. Let's take it back. What if white plays king f2? It could be really tempting for white to do so because they hope that you're going to move the bishop away, and after that they play rook e1 and win your queen. That's what they're hoping for, but here comes a huge upset. You instead play knight to e4, which is a really beautiful move. I wish that you play this one day. Knight e4 check to the king, and notice that white cannot capture is because the pawn is pinned down to the queen. In that case, they're going to lose the queen. They may figure it out and just play king g2 and say, hey, anyway, you have all these hanging pieces, how do you solve that? But you're not going to defend. You simply play queen h4 with multiple checkmating threats and you win. So you're threatening queen to f2 checkmate, queen h3 is also annoying, bishop h3 is going to result in a quick checkmate as well, and white is completely defenseless basically, so that's how you win. Okay, now let me show you a couple more variations so that you are prepared fully against this variation. You can actually use it in your blitz game, even in your tournament games, because it's a perfectly sound and completely correct opening for black. Now here after knight a5, we are attacking the bishop. Usually they play bishop b5, that's the main line by 4, attacking your king, so you gotta cover it. And after this trade, we have discussed that the most common move bishop a4 is actually a losing error. But if your opponent is better prepared, or just by luck, he may play some other move. How about the move queen to f3? Since your opponent is playing this attack and opening, there is a chance that he's going to keep pushing, right? And with queen to f3, white's idea is to attack this pawn twice, and also it's pinning the pawn down to the rook. So that's slightly tricky. What should you do in this case? Well, first of all, let me tell you what you should not do by all means. I've just checked the database, and that's crazy. The top move of black here is bishop to b7, and it is just so sad. I mean, no chess master would ever play bishop b7, even if he's completely drunk. I mean, if Magnus Carlsen wakes up at night from a nightmare, and his girlfriend asks him, like, what's the matter? He'd tell her, oh my God, I've just played bishop b7 in my horror dream. Really, that's how bad it is. Don't even ask me why, just don't play it, okay? So let's take it back. I mean, maybe Magnus's life is different, I don't know, but the point is just don't play the move. So after queen f3, basically any other move of black is good. Any logical move just leads black to a great position. The simplest is just to ignore it completely and play bishop e7. A common attacking pattern of black in this two knights game is that you're willing to sacrifice a pawn for quick development and you rush into an attack. So here if white takes here on c6, you say, okay, it's just a little pawn. I don't worry about that. And after this trade, you keep gaining temples for your attack. Now the queen is attacked, usually they'll drop it back and then you castle kingside. And notice that you're fully developed, you're ready to attack, and white is still for the most part passive. This gives you a ton of attacking options, especially in blitz. White's position is extremely dangerous. One good idea to know is that after white castles in this position, as well as in many other positions, there is a really powerful attacking shot, knight to g4. That allows you to keep your knight closer to white so that it creates different threats, but also it opens up this attack to their knight on g5. So you keep gaining temples by attacking that knight on g5. And after the knight goes back, you can keep pushing with the move pawn f5, gaining even more temples. Now the knight goes back, you keep pushing with the move pawn e4. You expand rapidly on the king side. Now the queen is attacked, they're going to do something, queen b3 or whatever, and of course we cannot analyze like all the potential variations here, but just you can see that you are way ahead in activity, you're already expanding massively on the king side, and white still hasn't developed a lot of their pieces, and white is in big trouble. For example, the move d3 can fail in a really spectacular fashion. You can play pawn a3, and that's really nice. They can't take with the bishop because after f4 you're going to double attack these minor pieces and win one of them. And if instead they capture with a pawn, you actually break through on the king side with the move pawn f4. You're willing to sacrifice a couple of pawns to open up his king, and now after bishop c5, you're targeting the king directly, king h1, queen h4, so that's how you attack. Now queen takes h2 is coming, and white is defenseless. That's going to be a checkmate within a couple of moves. Now, of course, white can play something else. We cannot analyze all the variations, but you see overall the attacking pattern. By the way, if you want to learn all the main attacking patterns, I recommend my free masterclass where I break it down how exactly you find attacking moves in the middle game, in this position as well as in any other position. So if you're interested, you may click the link below the video and check it out after watching this one. If you encounter a stronger level opponent, he or she may play a move bishop to d3, which is actually a pretty good choice for white. In this case, it potentially prepares for their knight to go back to e4 if needed, if you start attacking it. But I recommend that you still use the same attacking pattern we discussed in the previous example. You play knight to g4. This is the move which is very likely to catch your opponent by surprise. They aren't aware of it, but the idea is still the same. We open up our queen to attack this knight, and on the next move, as the knight drops back, you are willing to push your pawn forward, pressuring white and threatening pawn to e4. And it's actually really difficult for white to get out of this because your attack is very strong, and again, most of white's pieces are completely passive. For example, if he plays pawn h3, you don't back down, you're willing to sacrifice your knight over here to expose their king, and after king takes, first you can play this in between check, bishop c5, forcing the king back, and after king f1 you continue with your threat pawn to e4. So your idea is that you're going to get one of these pieces back while his king is stuck in the middle of the board, and you save your really strong attack on the next move. If white tries queen e2, trying to pin your pawn and save their material, that doesn't really help because you castle, and even if they play bishop c4 with a check and let's say they save their material, I mean their position overall is just so difficult. You attack their king and they're again so much behind in development. For example, after knight e5 there was a really fun line which is worth knowing. They similarly threaten knight f7, but we don't care, we just attack their king with the move queen to d4. Once again, all these pieces are shaky, we're attacking them. If knight takes f7, we sacrifice the rook over here, and now we'd love to play queen f2 checkmate, but it's currently guarded by their queen. So we deflect it by playing bishop a6. This is a pin, so they have to either give up their queen or whatever, and basically on the next move after whatever they do, you play queen f2 with a checkmate. So that's how you win in this really spectacular variation. And the final thing I want to mention here is that if your opponent doesn't go for this fried liver attack with the move knight to g5, which we already discussed, there is not a really common error of white is playing knight to c3 trying to defend this pawn that way. And most of your opponents don't even realize that it's an error, which often leads them down. So if you're curious how to do that, I've got another video where I cover just that, and you may check it out after watching this one. All the materials that I've covered in this video, the games, the free masterclass will be in the description below the video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that now you're going to be absolutely crushing it with black. Take care.